Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the September 9th River Falls City Council meeting. First thing we'll do is stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Amy, can we have a roll call, please?
Bierstead.
Here.
Bjork.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
Downing.
Here.
Morset.
Here.
Odine. Here. Page.
Here.
Okay, next we'll have approval of minutes from the August 26th meeting.
I move approval.
Second.
First and second on the minutes. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next we have approval of the bills with Councilmember Morset.
Mayor and council, I make a motion, we approve the bills in the amount of $4,516,795.63, subject to the comptroller's review.
Second.
First and second on bills. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next go on to public comments. If there's anybody on that has anything like to talk about, now would be the time. Like Amy had mentioned, please sign up while you're up there. And as always, 2 minutes.
I'm willing to break open the floodgates. Benjamin Fox, 2529 Powell Avenue, POWELL. September is suicide awareness month or something like that. And I'm always going to remember my brother's first suicide attempt as the paramedics are pumping red and blue pills out of his throat. I don't know if we've left Slack to communicate as much as we have. But when I see things about which side you're on versus what you're doing, and I just see this in a lot of things lately, and I think it's gotten worse again. And as we go back into election cycle again, which we don't may or may not like it, it's coming anyway. I see a lot of discord and a lot of hateful speech on both sides. And I also see it within public development. You guys may not be aware of as much the data center coming into Menominee that's proposed. And there's a lot of accusations in that. I mean, this is a big project. It's $1.6 billion that's going to be in the city of Menominee. And so when I see the city talking about economic development and such like that, I don't know if you guys have hardened yourself against it, the bananas, as someone has once said. And I hope the city promotes that more, because I would like to see Man Valley developed. And it's always hard to describe to people that it should be. And so I hope the city kind of gets more forward on it again, to say that we want to build businesses in River Falls that employ people. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to come on up?
Linda Vivoda Sade, 583 Wingate Drive, River Falls. I am a community mental health advocate, and I'm here today because September is Suicide Awareness Month, and it seemed like a good opportunity to talk about mental health issues. I'm part of the group RF Action, and we're working to address mental health issues in our community with a goal of bringing a community response team to River Falls. We are aware of families with mental health issues, whether I'm talking to a grocery store manager or when I was contacted because of a mental health issue where law enforcement and someone in plain clothes had already checked someone out and they couldn't do any more for them, but the situation wasn't resolved and the person was still in a mental health crisis. I didn't know who to contact, and I asked our group, and we realized that if we didn't know who to contact, there are probably other people who don't know where to get help in similar situations. So what this really shows is there is a gap between what public health can do on one side and what public safety can do on the other. When a person doesn't want to go to the emergency room and law enforcement isn't needed because safety isn't the primary concern, Who would be the next contact to get this person the care that they need? We also know there's a shortage of mental health professionals. And I just spoke with someone who was talking about her friend who needed a therapist, and they were told it was a 6 to 8 week out time frame. And so when someone's really struggling with a mental health issue, 6 to 8 weeks shows that our current system is not sustainable. We have seen models of mobile crisis response teams with a tiered system of de-escalation and crisis intervention at the first level in law enforcement, and I encourage you to think of that as a gap between public health and public safety.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Hansen. I'm the board president of the local NAMI St. Croix Valley. NAMI stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. We provide support, resources, and advocacy on behalf of people who are affected with mental health problems. So I'm just going to speak to what we're seeing in the community. We provide family support groups here in town, started on June 13th of last year, and ever since then, we have been full of families who have a loved one in crisis and who are struggling to get help. The typical scenario is law enforcement is called because there is an escalation, somebody's in active psychosis. Law enforcement is called, they come, they'll often bring a co-responder, which is wonderful. But due to the confines of the law, there's not, if the person doesn't meet the requirements to be detained, or admitted for a 72-hour hold, there's not much that can be done. And speaking, as Linda said, to the gap, we are finding that these families come to us during that gap time especially and saying, wait, I don't know what to do. How do I get help for my loved one? And we don't really have great answers. So we're definitely in support of finding additional help for families who are struggling so that it doesn't need to lead to a higher escalation and then, detainment in a criminal respect. So thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Heidi Retker. I'm a River Klaus Community and RF Action member, here to speak on the ongoing need for greater support and resource infrastructure in the community. My children have lost friends and classmates in this community to suicide and overdose. I know numerous parents in the community who have sought help through traditional paths for either their own mental health or substance abuse or their child's, and have been sent away still struggling without the support they needed because resources, providers, or respite outlets weren't available. While our agencies are doing what they can within their scope and limitations, there are other organizations and community members available and willing to step up and be a part of a larger solution. What is needed is for key partners, city, human services, public safety, and other representatives to come together with invested community organizations and members to discuss what is already in place and working, where the gaps are, and how we can collaborate to effectively address them with a community response structure that considers funding, liability, training, statutes, and other requirements. We also need to create an environment that normalizes seeking help early on before crises develop into more serious outcomes. Bringing together diverse perspectives, expertise, and efforts to develop a more robust, proactive response system that supports the unique needs of individuals and families and identifies the root causes behind these issues can prevent the need for police resources, hauling people away from family across or out of state to facilities with a $1,700 plus a day price tag or more unnecessary loss of life. We might be doing good, but let's strive to do better together. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Taylor Stevens, and I'm a member here in the River Falls community. I'm also a teacher at the high school. I'm a certified mental health first aid instructor, and I'm a member of River Falls Action, the group that you're hearing from tonight. You have heard from us before. We attended the meeting on April 9th earlier this year and told you a little bit about our community response team idea. But I'm here for two things. One, I wanted to share my concern around mental health. There are a lack of infrastructure in many of our communities around the United States responding to the mental health needs. As a teacher, I see this with my students waiting 6 to 8 weeks to see someone, students not knowing where to turn, families not having the right resources because we do unfortunately live in a resource desert. We're in a rural community. There's a lot of resources in the Twin Cities, but a lot of families rely on Badger Care, and that doesn't cover some of the services that are across the border in Minnesota. So our group, RF Action, River Falls Action, we have been doing research since we saw you in April. We've been conducting community surveys. We've been having meetings with business owners. We've been having community meetings with community members that are interested in our work and hosting community actions. And so we've created a 10-minute presentation to give you some of that information. So we would love to be able to have that opportunity. I know you can't respond to me today, but I would love to hear from someone, if that is at all a possibility, where we could give you some more information on the research, the models that we're seeing in Wisconsin and Minnesota, and what a community response team entails, because it is an infrastructure that we could employ within our rural community that might help with our mental health crisis. We look forward to hopefully hearing from you, and thank you again for your time this evening.
Thanks.
Good evening. Dana Lynn Scott, River Falls community member. Tonight I'd like to talk to you about transparency. It's featured on the city website as something that's very important, and it is very important. Unfortunately, lack of transparency is one of the things that community members run into when they try and understand what's going on at these meetings, what's going on with the city, what's going on with its investments in land and personnel. The transparency just isn't there, even though there's a commitment on paper to be there. I've only got 2 minutes, probably a minute now, so I'll give you one example of it where it doesn't even live up to the legal lower limits of transparency. And unfortunately, everybody on the board has probably unwittingly been part of this. When the board goes into private session, the responsibility to keep a record of what's discussed doesn't end. It doesn't have to be released to the public until it can no longer cause problems that the private session or the non-public session is held for. But the law requires that minutes be kept. Most of the small towns and all of the large towns and cities are in the area keep minutes on those non-public meetings when you go into private session. And I would thoroughly encourage you, if you want to begin to actually live up to the transparency you've committed to start taking minutes of those non-public sessions. Thank you.
Is there anybody else has anything to talk about? Okay, move on to the consent agenda. The first thing on the agenda is a resolution approving the memorandum of understanding between the City of River Falls and the River Falls Disc Golf Club regarding maintenance and public use of private property. This will be for the Sterling Hills Disc Golf Course. Next one is a resolution approving the River Falls Emergency Operations Plan. Does anybody want to pull anything? Otherwise, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
First and a second, questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next move on to the comptroller's report.
The comptroller's report for August 2025. General fund revenues through the end of August were $10,521,860, or 78% of total budgeted revenues for the year. Revenues in August included $3,209,946 for property tax, $72,600 for payment in lieu of tax for the housing authority portion, and $15,260 for building permit fees. Expenditures through the end of August were $8,475,160, or 63% of total budget expenditures for the year. So, as of August 31st, 2025, net revenues over expenditures were $2,046,700.
Thank you. Next, move on to administrator's report.
Happy to take any questions.
Yep. Anybody got anything for Scott?
I do.
Yep.
So I don't know if you can answer today, so no pressure on that at all. But since we've made the transition to the one-day pickup, July 21st with waste management, would we say results are better, similar, or worse in terms of pickups based on that small sample size?
I'd say worse. I mean, I think if you look at weekly, did they make it or not make it? I think they've made it less weeks, less percentage. They've had a smaller sample, but they've made a smaller percentage of completed route weeks when they've gone to one than when they had 3 days.
At a certain point, does that percentage get to a different spot where contractually we have different conversations?
We've initiated the clause in the contract that they're receiving a fine each week that they did not make the route. I mean, I'd say their effort is better, but the results they're not manifested in the results. So, I mean, effort's good, but at the end of the day, people want their garbage picked up. So that's the conversations we're having now, is that effort is still got to get to the result. So, I mean, they've anecdotally, it appears that they've replaced a couple pieces of equipment, which I think is helpful. I think they've addressed what were likely personnel issues that they had regarding specific routes. And so I think they're able to kind of, I don't know, for lack of better explanation, they're good drivers, they're consistent drivers, ones that are providing consistent quality, which a lot of neighborhoods have seen for years. With the one day, in theory, they're able to get those drivers shifted over after they've completed their route to help with the routes that aren't getting done. But I think they've had successful completion twice now since they've done it. I think it's been 6 weeks. So probably they're 2 out of 6 so far. And I think they were probably performing at 75% when they were doing 3 days a week.
And just to follow up, Scott, that contract is coming due this year, so the city staff will be reviewing our options there.
Yeah, so we'll be placing a request for proposals out in the next 30 days, likely. You can't write everything into an RFP, and if you do, you're probably going to put yourself in a spot where you have kind of an unexecutable document, but we've kind of focused on what we think what have surveyed as the most important things, and trying to get ourselves in a position where there's some competition for that, which is difficult because the trash industry continues its consolidations. The antitrust, I think it was antitrust case, I don't know which state it was in, where GFL kind of became a new thing. So Green for Life, those are the fluorescent. That was part of the waste management and Republic Services, I think, consolidation. So then we're hopeful that we can have a little competition, which keep them on their toes. But we're not planning to do single source or municipal operation. That's not something that we're considering at this point. So we're still trying to figure out the best way to have a private sector partnership.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Okay. Go on to, I do have one thing for good news. We're less than 2 weeks away from our final cookout conversation of the year. Join myself and the members of the City Council at Highview Meadows on Thursday, September 18th from 6 to 7:30 for a free meal and the opportunity to connect with others in the River Falls community. So bring your family and your neighbors, and I hope to see many of you there. And another thing is we have a proclamation recognizing the River Falls Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau in conjunction with Chamber of Commerce Month. So I'd like to read that real quick here. Whereas small businesses are at the heart of our River Falls community, acting as catalysts for local economic growth, supporting the livelihoods of many residents, and enriching the character of the place we all call home. And whereas acting as key partners in supporting the success of local small businesses and our local economy, the River Falls Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau plays an essential role in connecting businesses, residents, and visitors. And whereas the River Falls Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau provides a wide variety of services to its members and the community, including advocacy, education, and economic development, promoting entrepreneurship, encouraging local tourism, and helping solve unique economic challenges. And whereas the River Falls Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau serves as a critical community partner and problem solver, working with stakeholders from both the private and public sectors to ensure our local economy thrives. And whereas September is recognized annually as Chamber of Commerce Month, encouraging chambers across Wisconsin to spotlight their work and facilitate greater community connection among residents, visitors, and businesses of all shapes and sizes. And whereas this month, the City of River Falls recognizes and commends the River Falls Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau for making the River Falls a better place to live, work, raise a family, open a business, and more. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Dan Tolan, Mayor of the City of River Falls, do by here proclaim September 25th, or September 2025 as Chamber of Commerce Month in River Falls, Wisconsin, and encourage all residents to recognize and support the River Falls Chamber of Commerce for its dedication to our community's prosperity. Dated this 9th day of September, 2025. That's it.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
First and second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
I don't know what to think about this mental health thing though. I mean, I don't know how to